thou doom me guilty, and all thy love may turn away from me, when I have told thee all that I have done for the sake of thee and me. Oh, if then there might be some chastisement for the guilty woman, and not mere sundering." "Fear nothing, sweetling," said he, "for indeed I deem that already I know partly what thou hast done." She sighed, and said: "I will tell thee next that I banned thy kissing and caressing of me till to day, because I knew that my mistress would surely know if a man, if thou, hadst so much as touched a finger of mine in love. It was to try me herein that on the morning of the hunting she kissed and embraced me, till I almost died thereof, and showed thee my shoulder and my limbs, and to try thee withal, if thine eye should glister, or thy cheek flush thereat. For indeed she was raging in jealousy of thee. Next, my friend, even whiles we were talking together at the Well of the Rock, I was pondering on what we should do to escape from this land of lies. Maybe thou wilt say, why didst thou not take my hand and flee with me as we fled to-day? Friend, it is most true that were she not dead, we had not escaped thus far. For her trackers would have followed us, set on by her, and brought us back to an evil fate. Therefore I tell thee that from the first I did plot the death of those two, the dwarf and the mistress. For no otherwise mightest thou live, or I escape from death in life. But as to the dastard who threatened me with a thrall's pains, I heeded him nought to live or die, for well I knew that thy valiant sword, yea, or thy bare hands, would speedily tame him. Now first I knew that I must make a show of yielding to the King's son, and somewhat how I did therein thou knowest. But no night and no time did I give him to bed me, till after I had met thee, as thou wentest to the Golden House, before the adventure of fetching the lion's skin. And up to that time I had scarce known what to do, save ever to bid thee, with sore grief and pain, to yield thee to the wicked woman's desire. But as we spake together, there by the stream, and I saw that the evil thing, whose head thou clavest e'en now, was spying on us, then amidst the sickness of terror which ever came over me whensoever I thought of him, and much more when I saw him, he is dead now, it came flashing into my mind how I might destroy my enemy. Therefore I made the dwarf my messenger to her, by bidding thee to my bed in such wise that he might hear it. And wot thou well that he speedily carried her the tidings. Meanwhile I hastened to lie to the King's son, and all privily bade him come to me, and not thee. And thereafter, by dint of waiting and watching, and taking the only chance that there was, I met thee as thou camest back from fetching the skin of the lion that never was, and gave thee that warning, or else had we been undone indeed. Said Walter, "Was the lion of her making, or of thine, then?" She said, "Of hers. Why should I deal with such a matter?" "Yea," said Walter, "but she verily swooned, and she was verily wroth with the enemy." The maid smiled, and said, "If her lie was not like very sooth, then had she not been the craftsmaster that I knew her. One may lie otherwise than with the tongue alone. Yet indeed her wrath against the enemy was nought feigned, for the enemy was even I, and in these latter days never did her wrath leave me. But to go on with my tale. Now doubt thou not that, when thou camest into the hall yester-eve, the mistress knew of thy counterfeit tryst with me, and meant nought but death for thee. Yet first would she have thee in her arms again. Therefore did she make much of thee at table, and that was partly for my torment also. And therefore did she make that tryst with thee, and deemed doubtless that thou wouldst not dare to forego it, even if thou shouldst go to me thereafter. Now I had trained that dastard to me, as I have told thee, but I gave him a sleepy draught, so that when I came to the bed he might not move toward me, nor open his eyes, but I lay down beside him, so that the lady might know that my body had been there, for well had she wotted if it had not. Then, as there I lay, I cast over him thy shape, so that none might have known but that thou wert lying by my side. And there, trembling, I abode what should befall. Thus I passed through the hour whenas thou shouldest have been at her chamber, and the time of my tryst with thee was come as the mistress would be deeming, so that I looked for her speedily, and my heart well nigh failed me for fear of her cruelty. Presently then I heard a stirring in her chamber, and I slipped from out the bed, and hid me behind the hangings, and was like to die for fear of her. And lo, presently she came stealing in softly, holding a lamp in one hand, and a knife in the other. And I tell thee of a sooth that I also had a sharp knife in my hand, to defend my life if need were. She held the lamp up above her head, before she drew near to the bedside, and I heard her mutter, "She is not there then, but she shall be taken." Then she went up to the bed, and stooped over it, and laid her hand on the place where I had lain, and therewith her eyes turned to that false image of thee lying there, and she fell a trembling and shaking, and the lamp fell to the floor and was quenched, but there was bright moonlight in the room, and still I could see what betid. But she uttered a noise like the low roar of a wild beast, and I saw her arm and hand rise up, and the flashing of the steel beneath the hand, and then down came the hand and the steel, and I went nigh to swooning, lest perchance I had wrought over well, and thine image were thy very self. The dastard died without a groan. Why should I lament him? I cannot. But the lady drew him toward her, and snatched the clothes from off his shoulders and breast, and fell a gibbering, sounds mostly without meaning, but broken here and there with words. Then I heard her say, "I shall forget, and the new days shall come." Then was there silence of her a little, and thereafter she cried out in a terrible voice, "O no, 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 I cannot forget, I cannot forget." And she raised a great wailing cry that filled all the night with horror. Didst thou not hear it? And caught up the knife from the bed, and thrust it into her breast, and fell down a dead heap over the bed, and on to the man whom she had slain. And then I thought of thee, and joy smote across my terror. How shall I gainsay it? And I fled away to thee, and I took thine hands in mine, thy dear hands, and we fled away together. Shall we be still together? He spoke slowly, and touched her not. And she, forbearing all sobbing and weeping, sat looking wistfully on him. He said, "I think thou hast told me all, and whether thy guile slew her, or her own evil heart, she was slain last night, who lay in mine arms the night before. It was ill, and ill done of me, for I loved not her, but thee, and I wished for her death, that I might be with thee. Thou wottest this, and still thou lovest me, it may be overweeningly. What have I to say then? If there be any guilt of guile, I also was in the guile, and if there be any guilt of murder, I also was in the murder. Thus we say to each other, and to God and his hallows we say, we two have conspired to slay the woman who tormented one of us, and would have slain the other. And if we have done amiss therein, then shall we two together pay the penalty, for in this have we done as one body and one soul.